So, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jitendra sir and Rama madam and all the students. So, I would like to introduce our second session's speaker, architect and entrepreneur Jitendra Nayak sir, who was born and brought up in Hubli, North Karnataka, and graduated from BBB CET, Architecture Department in Hubli as well. He has also studied advanced management at very premier institute, Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. And an architect and an entrepreneur, Mr. Nayak is heading Sujit Kars Group in Hubli, which is a 75-year-old company involved in sustainable organic solutions. So very interesting, sir. Principal architect is a principal architect at Infrastructure One, uh, which this firm promoting ecological design since 1997. Founder and chief mentor of Sujit Kar's Skill Network group, which works with corporate training, creative workshops, and Swadeshi activities with various colleges across India, MNCs, and local organizations. Apart from practice, Mr. Nayak have taught at BVB CET and Anagadi School of Architecture in Belagavi. Mr. Nayak is the co-founder of Puneet Vibrant India, which is a research, innovation, and conservation center, and a member of many organizations, including Executive Council member of BTU. He's a governing body member of Dayanand Sagar College of Architecture, our college, and also East West School of Architecture. He's a BOS member of Institute of Management, Education and Research, KLS IMER in Belgavi. So, uh, passionate about Mr. Naik is passionate about adventure traveling, history, and cultural mapping. Architect Architect Nayak have visited more than 50 countries, and that exposure is immense. So, these with such interesting profile, I would like to welcome you, sir, to address our students across here. So, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Yeah.
Uh, Please confirm that I'm audible.
Yeah, sir, you're audible.
Okay, thank you very much. I once again thank Dr. Rama Madam for having me here and giving this opportunity to interact with the bright students who have come to your premium institute to perceive the course of architecture. I most heartily welcome all the students present here and also wish that within the next 5 years, I see all of you as architects, young architects, pursuing the further journey. Now, unlike other speakers, I would just like to speak to you over issues and concepts which I have learned over the last 25 years of my journey into this beautiful world of architecture. For today's talk, I will not really refer architecture as in architecture. I would just call it as design, because my basic concept of today's would be how we change ourselves as students to perceive into a creative field, to become a profession uh, which is often misunderstood or maybe understood in parts. That is the entire profession of architecture. Now, we all know that we have gone through so much of learning. We have completed 12 years of formal learning. Uh, and also now we are about to start another journey of 5 years of formal learning. Now, this entire thing of formal learning is a degree-oriented learning process. That is, at the end, you get a degree. And all of us basically work towards that. Our end goal is that we must get the degree from the university to which it is affiliated, whether it is architecture, engineering, or any other course. So all these years, we were into the concept of a degree learning. And it was always chalk and talk. till your 10th or in PUC2, you had teachers who would come to you with a set syllabus and try to teach that particular syllabus to you so that you can reproduce that in a 3-hour examination and get your marks and pass. Now, this was always a one-sided process, which is called as the tutoring. That is why they are called as tutors. So you are being tutored. So being tutored is nothing but transfer of information from one mind to another mind, and your capacity to hold that information and reproduce information would finally determine whether you will get that degree or no. That is, whether you will pass or fail. That is, whether it is black or white. The in-between shades of gray are never considered. So this entire method of learning is a very different method of learning. But what happens in architecture suddenly is that you will not be tutored. You have to learn by yourself. So this whole thing of being tutored and suddenly having to learn requires a sea change in the way we think in our mind or our mindset. And that is what we call it as you have to turn yourself, convert yourself into a designer's mind. And that is the most painful part or the most exciting part, the way you perceive it. But once that mindset change happens, then the real journey into the field of architecture as a true learner or a seeker or as a practitioner that begins. That's why architecture is always called as a practice. It is not an end in yourself. Once you get your degree, we are all at the same, we are all at par. Whether I have 25 years experience or you have 25 days experience, really doesn't matter. What matters is we are all seekers, we are learners. So as very fresh out of a PUC2 kind of or a 10+2 kind of a system, the first thing you will have to remember and learn is that your mind has to change from being tutored to a learner, right? This is the first thing that you need to adopt. The faster you adopt, the sooner you'll start enjoying. Now, what is a designer's mind? It's basically a solution-oriented mind. It's a mind which looks for solution to apparent problems. It looks for problems where solutions can be given to improvise upon a situation which is already there. It is a problem which looks at the solution and constantly tries to improvise it. Now, these, when I say problem or a solution, they need not be actual tangible problems. There could be problems of the society. There could be, problems of a city. There could be problems of a community. Or, as is normally understood, there could be problems of, a site, like building, on a particular given site. But before we come to that, of building and all that, an ecosystem in the mind has to be created of that being a solver, a solution provider. Not the one who will look at the problems all the time, but somebody who looks at the solution all the time. And somebody who gets absolutely excited looking at the more complicated the problem, the more excited one is. And all these problems which are there will always have a structured solution. A designer's mind always gives a very structured solution. You might initially have a very fantasy kind of a solution, but then that solution is filtered down to a very structured kind of a solution which is repeatable, which can be scalable, and which can be implementable, and such other things. So, of course, you'll be learning all these things in days to come, but unless your mind is ready to take it up, it becomes very difficult. You get confused. There is no homework. There is nothing to by heart, and all these. What is your mind is already used to certain way of learning, and you suddenly get confused. So, my first suggestion would be get into this groove faster. Get into the groove that I'm going to learn. I'm a learner. I'm a seeker, and the teachers who are there in the department, in the school, the professors are not teachers anymore. It is not us and them anymore. It is not me and them anymore. They are part of my team. They are the mentors. Uh, the teachers suddenly take the role of mentors. And unless we reverse that entire mindset, I'm not a student anymore. I'm part of the teachers' team. And we are all trying to discover something. We are all trying to learn something together. This is the basic mindset change you all have to do. Secondly, it's about skills. It's not about learning uh, a particular formula or a particular part of a theorem or something like that. It is part of the whole way how we operate as a team. So these are some of the things. It's like how we learn the skills. Like I need to improvise upon my sketching. I need to improvise upon my color ability. I need to improvise upon my speaking skill. I need to improvise. So this constant search for improvisation is something that will determine your future as a student for the next 5 years. And it is not only as I said, it is not these are just first 5 years of your journey to become an architect or a practice of architecture. So uh, you need to really constantly improvise upon it. And that requires a lot of external learning also. It's not only about what is there in your syllabus. It doesn't really restrict yourself. It's the ecosystem in the mind, the kind of information you need in your mind to process all the data and come out with that design solution or develop that designer's mindset requires data from all sides. And that is exactly where we come to the entire new education policy that we are talking about. You all must have heard about new education policy and things like that, but then it is actually in reality, it is really not new, as in a new education policy is not really new. It is just going back to our original way of learning, the thousands of years of learning that our country had. It is just trying to reconnect to that kind of a learning because the whole world is moving towards that. For example, let's say we all talk about creativity and ideas. Let's consider an idea as an ignition. An ignition comes in the form of an idea. It's ignited. But unless that ignition or unless that ignite is nurtured properly, it cannot be developed into a full-fledged fire, a controlled fire. So any idea needs to be developed into a proper solution, maybe into a building or into a product, into an automobile or into anything. So the first fire of idea needs to be nurtured. So there is ignition and there is nurturing. So this ignition and nurturing process requires a particular ecosystem. Now let's say there is an ignition, but if there is no oxygen, it cannot convert into a fire. But only with oxygen, it cannot do that. It needs something else, maybe some natural gas or LPG. These are all the ecosystems. So unless these ecosystems are there in our mind, this entire form of creativity converting into design, and our mind, from a creative person converting yourself into an architect, doesn't happen. So these are some of the basics which I feel all of us should understand so that our journey into the field becomes much more easier. Now, coming back to the 360-degree learning or whatever that is given in new education policy or the way architecture has always been taught, let me just try to connect that with the thought process that is there in the policy and what is happening across the world also. Earlier, there is nothing. Before this formal education of B.Arch was started, maybe some 70, 80 years ago. There is nothing called a course in architecture. There used to be architects, but it was very difficult to really differentiate between an excellent engineer, an architect, a sculptor, a painter, a carpenter, or a philosopher. Take, for example, Leonardo da Vinci. You must have heard about him. Now, it is very difficult to really you know, he was a inventor, he was a sculptor, he was one of the greatest philosopher, he was a thought leader, you know. So architects were basically the thought leaders of the society, and that is what the entire new education policy is also wishing, and the whole society is moving towards that. For example, today engineering, like you used to have BE in automobile. Nowadays, there is nothing called BE in automobile, because automobile is not automobile per se. It is part electronics, it is part computers, it is part mechatronics, it is part, all that. So there is no really differentiation. So a car today requires all kinds of engineers. So that is why these are being merged now. Nowadays, they have been merged. So similar thing is happening in architecture field also, and that is where we connect to our roots. You know? For example, we had the word Vastu Shilpi for an architect, and the Vastu Shilpi of the gods was Vishwakarma. Is Vishwakarma. Now Vishwakarma is the god for is an architect for the gods. That's what we believe. Now, what is the concept behind it? The concept was that, in the Sthapatya Veda, where all these are mentioned, there is nothing called only architecture. It comes under Sthapatya Veda, Sthapana. That is, in the whole establishment. The whole establishment comes under the ambit of an architect. That is right from site selection, where the site should be, what kind of soil should be, and all the way up to what kind of tools are used, who should build, at what time it should be built, to all the way up to how, what should be the surrounding and everything. And I'm sure some of you will know that many of the famous weapons which were used during the war of Mahabharata, there is very detailed information given, and how these weapons were built by Vishwakarma. He was also one of the greatest weapon builder. So there is similar to what I was talking about, the concept of Leonardo da Vinci and things like that. So the whole idea was till about 80 years back, 80 or 100 or 150 years back, probably, even West. The entire concept of one person being only restricted to a building, or only a building designer, was not there. And that is where we come to the whole idea that once your mind is a designer's mind, there is actually no restriction on what you can design. It's not only a city you can design the way a set of people behave. You can design the way an entire nation behaves, or the way a community should behave. So these are much bigger philosophies, but this is where we all should be moving. So my request to you is, do not consider this as a 5 years course. I will just complete this course and I'll get my degree and I'll become an architect and I'll start practicing, because that's not how 2025-26 is going to be, where you will actually get out of the college. The society and the entire economy, or I would say, because I am also involved in a lot of startup scene, I see that the kind of things which are happening, uh, the way economy or the way society will function will be very different from what it is today. It's like an entire generation would have changed in these next 5 years. So you have to be absolutely at hands with, maybe you should know about economics, whatever is happening in the technological field, and all that, the entire gambit. So try to be that. So I would just like to say that, like I said, when I say Vishwakarma, it has got a lot of meaning in it. It is like global. The entire whatever is happening in the globe is controlled by the thought leaders who are architects. That's something like that. So, and that is what people are talking about. People are talking about global citizens. People are talking about every profession should be a global profession, in the sense that any graduate who comes out of, say, our country should be able to work in any other country, or vice versa. So that is what, like, for example, today lawyers, if a lawyer knows only Indian law, he or she has hardly any value in the gambit, they should know international law, because most of the MNCs who are coming here will work upon international laws. They are least bothered about the Indian law. Similarly, a chartered accountant who comes out, if he knows only the Indian way of, is very perfect with Indian accounting system, it has no meaning today, because many of the MNCs follow the international accounting systems. So the whole concept is that, similar to even a teacher or any, even a doctor, of course, medicine field, it was always there, that any medical office, like any MBBS or a doctor, MD doctor, is always at par with international scenes. So that concept was much better in India. That is why most of the countries have got Indian doctors. But now that has come to all the profession, more so with architects. So you'll have to be at par, and your aim should be to be a global a profession. So these are some of the backgrounds, on which we must work. We must not restrict ourselves to syllabus, or what is there, what is my syllabus, what are my marks. These are all very basic things which you'll have to do for the sake of getting your degree. But that is not going to be enough. You will have to have a very sound designer's mind in your in a very strong body. So overall improvement is also very important. Based on this, I have just come out with, as we have, as my master's is in management, we always work with three B's, two C's, and those kind of things. So I have come out with 5C concept for architects, or rather students of architecture. My first C is context. So whenever we think creativity, or whenever we think about a design solution, we must have a proper context. And that contextual thinking should start right from first year, first day. Anything that is given to you, any task that is given to you, or anything that is being taught to you, you must understand it contextually. For example, any solution, if it goes out of context, then that solution may not be the right solution. For example, if you want to say build a school, if a school has to be built for maybe LKG and those like 5 years old, 6 years old kind of kids, and if that school is built the way that school had to be built in a big city, if the same school is built in a small village, the entire context would be lost, or vice versa. So something like that, where we build, why we build, for whom we build, that is architectural terminology. But same thing, like for whom am I giving a solution? So it should not have the, it's like you must have heard about a very famous adage. I don't know whether, I am sure all of you have heard about this. When there was French Revolution was going on, because the French people were very poor, whereas the French kings and queens, they were living too lavishly. And this Queen Marie Antoinette was told that people are dying of hunger, and they're not even getting the bread. They want bread to eat. And she said, let them eat the cake. So something like that, our solution should not be out of context. So this is something which you will develop over a period of time by learning about more about society, by the current affairs that is happening around, the kind of society you have to work on, and all this. So context is very important. Similarly, there has to be content. This second C is very important. The content, the originality part of it. The originality is a major issue in the present society, especially in the last 5 years, because we have become a society of forward. Whatever we get, we forward it. Whatever we get, we share it. We have no qualms about copying, cutting, and pasting. We feel it's fine. We don't look at the originality of a work. And because we are the designers, we are in that field of creating original content, we must be very sensitive to it. the content has to be original, the content has to be rooted. Whenever, because we have been taught, it's not your fault also that we have been taught right from in school that, okay, go through internet, search for this and get, write an essay, or search in the internet and search for this information, collect the data. So we are used to just searching from what is already there, from the information overload that we already have. So it's very important that we try to minimize that, and based on our entire contextual thinking and all the other reading that we will be doing, to come out with some original ideas. It's very important. The original ideas may not be as rocking, or may not be as beautifully presented as they are already there. So sometimes it might feel that, why should I do all this? It's already there. Let me just cut paste it. I think it's high time that you start, developing that habit of developing, of having the original content. My advice would be just stop forwarding. Don't forward anything for the time being. Anything that goes from you, or whatever that you share in your Instagram, or whatever that you share, or you forward in your WhatsApp, just make it a habit that, think twice before sending it up or before sharing. Is this original? Do I have any contribution into this particular content? Am I the owner of this content? Or if I am sharing this, should I not inform people or public that, whose original context is this? So giving due credit to the people, all these habits are very important. So I would say content is very important as a cultural habit and as a habit change. Like I told you in the beginning that, being tutored and being a learner, it's a huge it looks very simple, but it's a huge cultural change, right? So that originality of content is very important. Third would be a character. What is our character, right? Character building, we say. It's a very general term, character. But it is a sum total of who we are and what kind of work we do. For example, if we believe in certain philosophy, or we keep talking about something, but when actually it comes to doing, if we do exactly opposite, then the entire character becomes a kind of double standards, and people see it. So what we say we must do, and what we do we must practice. So these kind of character building is very important, because the field of architecture, it's all about a personality. What kind of personality you, because you are your own market. There is nothing called, you don't have to really do an advertisement. You're your own product. So the entire thing of developing your personality begins right from today. The way you will be for the next 5 years will determine how you will be for the next 50 years. Because as I said, your teachers are not your teachers. They are not going to forget you. They will remember you for life, because you'll be working with them. It's a profession, right? The people who are our student just immediately become our colleagues, or sometimes will become our own celebrities. So because of that, it is very important that we develop a proper character. And please do not misunderstand character with, only part of it. It's a complete package, right? So it has to be immaculate. It has to be unshaken, because life isn't a race now. It's an entire huge marathon. So please get into that kind of thing. No shortcuts. Absolutely no shortcuts, and you have to be true to yourself. So there is no point in copying and then pass and all that. All these become very silly nowadays. I mean, henceforth. So please do get into that third very important C, that is character. Fourth very important C is commitment. Whenever we get these ideas, to see to it that idea is fulfilled to its entirety, number one, and to its full potential, is our own job, because every idea is like our baby. So it's our responsibility to see that that idea, generated idea, takes its full form, and whatever may be that idea, this should become part of our character. Uh, that is why it's important that we follow the first three. That is, it has to be contextual, it should have the right content, and it should be done using the full character, force of the full character, so that with that commitment we complete that task. So commitment is very important, and especially in the real term, it could be in the form of how are you going to fulfill the commitment of going through these 5 years of course, which people say architecture is one of the most difficult course and things like that. But then, if you really follow all these basic principles, you'll really have the best experience. And we all believe that the 5 years of architectural life were the best time of our lives. So that is how it should be, and it will be like that once you commit yourself. You have done a lot of struggle, especially your batch has seen a lot of problems, and you've gone through a lot of weight. By now, you should have finished your first semester, but then you are just beginning the journey. Nonetheless, that becomes immaterial, right? So, with a lot of commitment, you have come here, and you must show the same commitment to yourself. And that is when the whole life becomes much easier. So, it's a commitment for life. Um, and last C, is contentment. Now, this might sound a little more philosophical to you, uh, but then the fact is that only in a contented mind, uh, creativity thrives. People say that creative minds are always they're either dreamers, or they they don't stay at one place, and they're very erratic and they're very all that. But a real creative mind has to be contented, and only in a very contented mind, creativity really emanates in such a way that it becomes reality. It's like we all have to be dreamers, but then if we are only dreamers, then the dreams never come true. Only when you have a contented, proper mind, all the dreams can be realized. So, contentment is very important. When I say contentment, it is basically our ability to wrap up things, to basically wrap up things, uh, to complete the tasks. As you keep on completing small tasks, you will be more and more contented. So, my idea here is that you must become somebody who knows how to meet the timeline. Most of the work that you will be doing in the next 5 years will be based on submission dates. So these submission dates become they become nightmares sometimes. But then our life is like that, and any creative person, unless learns to meet the deadlines, to meet the submission dates in a proper, neat, and planned way, uh, becomes absolutely getting success becomes very difficult. So that is why it's very important. You should know when to stop. It's very famous, that design. The best design is best designer is someone who knows when to stop. So this when to stop comes only through a very contented mind. So and that requires a lot of additional features in our personality, like what we typically call it as extracurricular activities. Although I really don't believe in that word, it's a very old word used, extracurricular. It's not extra at all. It is basically the activities which we should be doing on a daily basis. Maybe some interest in music, or maybe writing some poetry, or such kind of things which make us contemplate. Contentment comes only by contemplation, and this giving ourselves time for contemplation, at least 1 or 2 hours in a day, is very important for the ideas that are generated in our mind to be properly implemented, and to have a proper structured uh, 5 years, especially the architectural course. So you can please note down these, and maybe today you'll not realize, but as you go around every year and a year, these five C's uh, make a very important pentagon of your life. Any one of the C missing creates an imbalance which has an effect on every other aspect of your life. So, first one is your context, contextual thinking. Second one is originality, the content. The contextual thinking has to be original, and it should stick with that, rooted, I would say. It should be rooted to that particular originality. You will see, for example, you'll have huge tree with a very strong trunk in between. Because of that strong rooting, the tree is able to expand as much as it wants and give out fruit and shade and everything. So that rootedness is very important. You have to be rooted to your originality, and this is possible when naturally you have a very good character, a character which cannot be bought, a character which doesn't believe in cheating and all that, things like that. So unshaken character, and all this unshaken character and immaculate thinking can be formed when you have a very great ideal. Whatever that you believe in, you should not be moving from that ideal. So you must hold good ideals and stick to it. That is commitment. And through these context, contented character and commitment, you finally achieve uh, contentment. And that contentment comes through contemplation. And that is one word I want you to always remember, that you have to be contemplating all the time. Contemplating all the time is that uh, you cannot really believe anything at the face value. Number one, whatever that comes to your mind or stays in your mind has to go through a filtration process. You must listen to everybody, and you must also listen to your own original ideas. You must read what has already happened in the past in this world, and after all this, your final learning, which you store in your mind, should go through this entire thing. That is possible only by contemplation. So this should be your mantra. uh, like for example, nowadays what is happening is so much of data is already available. You have thousands and thousands of uh, you know uh, TED talks. You have so much of information or lectures on architecture in your YouTube and webness. So much. So somewhere your mind would be telling that, Array, why do I have to, I miss one class today. Why? I can always, have a look. I might be getting a better class on YouTube maybe, or some other online stuff. Why should I do this? Or I've seen now so much of sketching tutorials are available. So much of watercolor tutorials, photography tutorials, you name it, and you got tutorials. So why should I attend college? Somebody asked me the other day, why should I attend college? And why should I not miss this particular college? Because maybe I don't like this particular the way somebody takes a lecture. I just don't like it, and I can always see it later, and those kind of things. These are the first phase of getting in the wrong way of uh, you know breaking these five C's, because there is one single simple formula, or not formula, I would say a statement which I always make. Learning through exposure is okay. So what you're talking about is learning through exposure. You are sitting in your home and you want to cook. You want to learn cooking. So you see these YouTube beautiful videos and very nicely done cooking videos. And you see it and you really feel confident that yes, I can do it. But when you actually enter the kitchen and try to do it, the thing doesn't really look, not even the color looks same, or forget the shape and the size of that particular dish. And actually, how if somebody has tried, it ends up in a disaster sometimes, or sometimes whatever it comes, because we have cooked, we eat it. So that is learning through exposure. The problem of learning through exposure is Yes, some things can be learned by exposure, but then it is never enough. Learning through exposure is never enough. What is the next type of learning? Next type of learning is learning through experience, experiential learning. Yeah, experiential learning is really great. Experiential learning is really great. That is how the apprenticeship learning, if you really want to learn carpentry, you work under a master carpenter for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, you start graduate, maybe after 5, 6, 7 years, you become a good carpenter yourself, or any other things like, that is learning through experience. It's really great, where you actually like, the difference would be, that you sit near a pool and learn about swimming, or you get into the pool and learn about swimming. That is the difference between learning through exposure and learning through experience. Well, that's fine. So exposure is okay, experience is great, but then there has to be something fantastic. Learning through contemplation is that fantastic. You know, it is the ultimate. So you do your exposure learning, you do your experience learning, and then you contemplate. You take all this data, you think about it, and think about who you are, and then learn. That is the ultimate learning. So uh, we have these three: exposure, experience, and contemplation. Learning through exposure is what we have been doing all this while. The teacher solves the problem, in on the blackboard, and then when you go back home, you thought it was so easy when we were sitting and when the teacher was solving it, but then when you go back home, it was difficult. We all experienced that in school, or something like that. So learning through experience, yes, we all will be doing now in these next 5 years. But then try learning through contemplation also, and that will really change the way you experience learning. Uh, this is maybe all this might sound a little too much for you. Maybe it's like, okay, these are all very philosophical things, and all I have to do is ultimately marks matter, uh, you know, attendance matter, and those kind of things. Yes, your attendance is very important. That comes under your commitment. Your marks, of course, is important. That again comes under your commitment. But all this is a complete package, and I really wish that you complete this package in the right way. Um, I would just like to tell you one more small thing before I conclude, that all these years when architecture was being taught, it was always taught with design as the end game. That you have to be a designer, you have to work under an architect, then you have to become a great architect and all that, which was all fine till, as I said, till maybe a decade ago or even 2 decades ago. But today, in the especially last post-corona era, things have completely changed. I'm sure all of you have experienced in your own neighborhood. Everyone is becoming entrepreneurs nowadays. There are startups everywhere, especially in Bangalore. Every nook and corner has got a startup. Your aunt, who was just was a good baker, she would cook, very good cakes, has suddenly become a startup. Has got a startup in, a bakery startup, or someone is doing a chai startup. A chai wala is calling as a startup, a coffee startups, and anything and everything. There are startups nowadays. That is, the whole society or the whole world is buzzing with an entrepreneurial zeal. Everyone wants to get into entrepreneurship. And architecture, the practice of architecture itself was an entrepreneurial thing. But then we never said it in that way. But it's time now for all the architects to also have entrepreneurial zeal, to get into innovation in whatever that we have to do. So I really wish that, your college also becomes an entrepreneurial hub in the field of architecture. There is so much that we can do, and I'm sure I'll also be talking to Dr. Rama Madam about this, that, we have to have the entire innovation and startup hubs in every architectural schools, so that architectural students who are basically entrepreneurs uh, are not, do not miss the entire ecosystem that is developing so fast. So go into innovation, get into entrepreneurship, learn cross things, like, as I said, remember the car. A car today is incomplete without an electronics engineer, without a computer science engineer, because so much software is there, without a telecommunication engineer. So 5 or 6 different engineers are required to work on one particular car today, including a designer engineer, of course. So similar things we need to develop in terms of architecture also. So whatever interest you had in other fields, do not lose it simply because you have entered architecture. Develop it further and further, so you become a 360-degree person. And by 2025-26, when you will be entering into the real world, the whole world would have changed, and you would be there to take on that world with the right spirit. I truly believe in all this, and I would like to end with one simple concept. Remember, uh, in Sanskrit, there are 2 words to basically say complete. There is one word called Purna. It is complete, right? But there is another word called Paripurna. That is absolutely complete. I would really want you to contemplate on this. There is one Purna and there is Paripurna. And that Paripurnata is given only to God. We can only strive towards that. So I really wish that your life journey, which has just begun, becomes not only Purna, will also end up becoming a Paripurna. It will become a Paripurna architect in the future and bring laurels and glory to this wonderful college that you have joined today. And I wish you all the best. And I'm sure I'll get to interact with you more and more in days to come, offline also. And I also once again wish all of you well and thank Dr. Rama Madam for having me here. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very much thankful to Architect Jitendra Naik, member of EC of VTU and member of Governing Council of our own college, DSCA, for accepting to speak to our incoming batch, DSCA 2020. Sir, your inputs regarding the professional aspects are very much needed in this era of globalization. And it's never too early to encourage students to think of architecture as a multidimensional profession and to inculcate the interest to develop various skills. And particularly the 5C concept you have formulated is very unique and helps students to focus on essential skills based on their own interests and their own abilities. Sir, you have also touched upon the important concept of what is integrity, which is so important, and also to honor the references from which we draw inspiration in this era of plagiarism and copy. Uh, I also think you have really, brought forward the idea of entrepreneurship because many of our students, many of the students and parents who take admission do ask us very frequently, what are the placement opportunities? So when we have our one-on-one sessions during the admissions, I speak to everyone and I keep telling them that, placement is there, but it is not the goal of a professional to get placed, and entrepreneurship is key. So thank you so much for reiterating that thought and putting it forward so nicely as to developing entrepreneurial skills in this context is so important. And also in terms of this question came up yesterday's talks also about how we know when our design is complete. So you have beautifully put forward these 2 words of Purna and Paripurna to understand completion and to understand when the task is done to satisfaction. So that comes from our own inner understanding of the task at hand and our own contentment with our output and our confidence in our abilities. So it was such an interesting talk touching on our root core values of our culture and giving a good context to students who are commencing on the architecture course. I thank you very much for your energizing words. I thank you for accepting to talk to our students, and I wish our students a wonderful journey during the next 5 years at DSCA. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Students can leave the meet.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll take your leave. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.